All right, greetings women entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Women's Entrepreneurship Open for Questions. My name is Hallie Schneier. I'm the Associate Director of Women's Outreach here in the White House Office of Public Engagement, joined today by Christine Koronides of the National Economic Council and Anna Harvey, Associate Administrator from the Office of Women's Business Ownership at the SBA. So a big thanks to Entrepreneur.com for partnering with us on today's event. And we've got quite a few questions, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine. I work at the National Economic Council. I just wanted to take a minute to paint a broad picture of what we within the administration are focused on in terms of small business and particularly women's small business ownership. We know that small businesses are a powerful force in the economy. They create most of the net new jobs and really keep economic growth on pace in the country. We also know that women-owned businesses are a growing share of those small businesses. There's a 20% increase between 2000 and the last data we have from 2007, showing that women-owned businesses are now about 8 million of the small businesses in this country. So we know, as I'm sure you all do, that it's been tough times and access to credit is harder, and the services and support that small businesses, including and especially women-owned small businesses, need have increased in the current economic climate. And we've been focused on initiatives that help get capital into the hands of small business owners, ensure that training and counseling programs are available broadly and there to assist everyone who wants to participate, and that the government's doing, putting its money where its mouth is, if you will, and looking at what we purchase and through our contracting dollars and making sure that we're supporting small businesses and particularly women-owned businesses. So I can go through tons of programs that we've gotten off the ground in the past few years that we've strengthened and supported. But I'll take those as answers to questions, I think, and pass it over to Anna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us today, taking an hour of your time. I know that owning a business takes most of your waking hours, so we really appreciate you joining us today. Just like Hallie mentioned, I'm the Assistant Administrator for the Office of Women Business Ownership, which actually makes me your biggest advocate within SBA, and not only SBA, but the federal government. So. Very, very happy to be here. I'm honored to be leading the charge for women business owner, as I was one of you, and probably go back to that when I finished my tenure here. So not long ago, about a decade ago, I started my own business, and I grew it from my house, and I was successful at hiring, but it wasn't really as easy. So right now, being inside the SBA, I feel very privileged to actually advise and guide SBA as what works for women and what needs to be done for women. So I'm looking forward to your questions, and whenever we're ready, we can start.
Okay, great. So I think folks know we've gotten questions in through Twitter, through Facebook, and some on our web form. So we're going to go with some of the questions coming in live, as well as some of the questions that we received before. So one of the questions we got from Twitter actually is from @LibbyLab, who's asking, I've got a phenomenal idea for a business, but no money or access to capital. What can I do to push forward? Christine, do you have thoughts on that?
Well, actually, I'm going to pass this to Anna because I think at an early stage like that, there are a lot of programs we've worked with to make sure that micro lenders and smaller nonprofit intermediaries are capitalized and can help very early and nascent startup-sized businesses. But I think Anna's going to have the key to success here.
Yes. Thank you. Libby doesn't say where you are located, but I just want to tell you about an incredible resource for women that the SBA has to offer, and that is the Women Business Centers. I have 110 Women Business Centers, and I said I have because I'm the director of those centers. They are like my pride and joy to actually know that last year the Women Business Centers trained and or counseled about 160,000, mainly women in the country, because men, of course, are always welcome to come into our doors. But one thing that I want to mention is that if you haven't heard about the Women Business Centers, it's very, very important that you go to sba.gov.gov, and we'll give you more information on how to find it. But if you actually have a great idea, but you don't know what to do next, the first thing you need to do is get a counselor or a mentor or a trainer that actually tells you how to actually implement that idea. The idea in your mind is great. We need to make sure it's going to work in real life, that you're actually going to make some money out of this, because remember, now you have to start thinking about it as a businesswoman. You're here to make money and maybe reinvest in your community, but you need to make sure that that idea is firmly put down on a piece of paper, and the Women Business Centers could actually help you do that. Other resources that we have at the Small Business Administration are the Small Business Development Centers and also the SCORE counselors. All together is about, 13,000 SCORE counselors, 900 Small Business Development Centers, and 110 Women Business Centers. So you're not far from help. So before you actually get your idea into practice, you need to sit down with a counselor to make sure that idea makes perfect sense. Because I know it makes sense in your head, we just want to make sure it makes sense in real life.
I just want to add one thing. As I think that's a really important point, and as I've kind of talked to a bunch of people, some people have their plans developed and they're good, sound plans. Going to see that counselor can still help you if you have a solid plan. Those folks on the ground have relationships with lenders, with investors, and sometimes I think, as we've seen throughout the past few years, you don't know whether to go to a bank or a CDFI or a nonprofit lender in your community, and those folks at the Women's Business Centers, at the Small Business Development Centers, can really help match up your specific case with a lender or a financer that specializes in cases like yours. So even if you have a solid business plan, still a good place to go, good connections to leverage.
Wonderful. Okay, great. And another question that's come in via Twitter, and I'm not sure who wants to take this one, is from @OwlNational, asking, are there any community programs, training, programs like that specifically target unemployed women age 40 and over, and could one or both of you speak a little bit about that?
Want to talk about labor?
Well, I know that it's a growing segment of the population with issues, especially been harder hit by recent unemployment than other segments. We do have a number of Department of Labor one-stop shops, and those shops kind of, in addition to traditional work around matching up unemployed workers with opportunities, some have some really good programs around self-employment and business ownership skills. There has been a lot of federal dollars pumped into training and workforce development programs throughout the country in the past few years. So I would start with some of those Department of Labor training programs, but there are other opportunities that Anna can talk about as well.
Right. So that's one thing if you want to acquire new skills. But if you want to start a business, then you come to the SBA. Again, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to the centers, but it is an incredible resource. So you might want to partner with somebody else to tap some new opportunities. You need new skills, or actually build a business that is the Women Business Centers or the other resources at the SBA could also help you. Actually, I just also want to mention that we have district offices around the country, about 68 of them, and that is a good place to come and just get the whole view of what SBA has to offer, because they're not going to be talking only about a business plan or about contracting to the federal government. They will give you the whole overview of the different avenues that you can explore to be successful. So I think there is plenty of resources.
Hey, Anna, just in case there's folks watching or looking who don't know, what's the best way to find your closest district office if you haven't been in before?
Right. So the easiest way is to actually go to sba.gov. In the main page, there is a button that says SBA Direct. If you enter your zip code right there, then you're going to see a whole entire list of every resource that is closest to you. So if you are geographically far away from a Women Business Center, there's always a district office or a SCORE chapter, or even other resources from the federal government that are closer to you geographically. So sba.gov, SBA Direct, and enter your zip code.
Terrific. Okay. And Bernadette Rivero just asked a question on Facebook. that I think pertains to a lot of women. I know we hear this a lot. Where can small and mid-sized women-owned businesses and owners find mentors?
Right. Probably during the last year, I have engaged with over 2,000 women, like one-on-one. I did a lot of traveling this year, and one of the biggest requests was for a mentor. Where can I find a mentor? Right now, we actually, the best resource for you is the SCORE counselors, who are actually executives that are given time, to smaller companies to actually guide them. So they serve more of a mentors and a counselor. So if you go to a SCORE mentor, that could be very, very helpful. Another thing is that we're actually starting to push to get more women into mentoring other women. That is something that we're just trying to stand up very, very quickly. It's one of the things that I really want to do this year, this coming 2012, to create this network of mentoring for women. We're working with other partners in terms of veterans, in terms of maybe mentoring women through, by industry. If you're in construction, you want to be mentored by somebody who has experience in construction. So I'm working on all that, but actually SCORE might be your best bet right now. And again, that's one of the resource partners at the SBA.
Yeah, and there's also, it depends on the sector, there's some other innovative programs, even at SBA, the Mentor Core program for
That's right.
Some
That's
high-tech industries, matching up energy executives
That's
with
right.
Other seasoned energy executives.
Terrific. And T. Thompson has asked us, in understanding there might be funding to retrain displaced workers, veterans, and others, how can information to those resources, where should folks access them? Are there plans to disseminate that more broadly, would you say?
We are trying very hard. That's why we're here, because we really wanted to know about all these programs. So there is something that, we're out there as much as we can. We really thank you for actually being there and sharing this time with us. And we actually want to charge you with the task of going around and pass this along to your colleagues and friends, that there are all these resources. I just want to touch a little bit on help to women veterans, if I may. SBA has partnered with Syracuse University and has created, together have created what we call the VWISE program. And it's Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. I think that's what it is. That's what it is. So it is very, very helpful for veterans, women veterans that want to start their own business. It starts with a 15-day online course in which you actually get acquainted with what it takes to run a business. After that, then you have a 3-day intensive course in one of the locations, and I think there is one coming up in March. And after that, you have a whole year of support as you grow your business. So that is particular to veterans, and we're very thankful for the partnership with Syracuse University for this. I think at the SBA, you can actually get more information on the VWISE program. And I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, to find out more about the training programs that exist, I would start with the Department of Labor and look for your local Department of Labor one-stop shop that should be pulling together some resources from labor and education, other federal agencies, and those folks should be able to tell you where on the ground near you some different training programs that might meet your particular needs are.
Okay, so a question came in, and Heather Beal just asked us this a second ago. In terms of really directing women in this day and age, Christine, like you were saying, about where to find capital, she's hearing a lot about learning, but where can we go to find hardcore capital to sort of grow those businesses for folks who have already started but are looking to grow? Do we have recommendations?
Yeah, sure. So I've actually looked at this a lot, and we have some documented evidence, which is unfortunate, but we all have to live with it, right? One is it's getting harder to get loans for growth capital up to about $500,000, which I'm sure you all know and can tell me more about. And at the same time, historically, women have a harder time accessing the capital that is available in the marketplace, and as credit is constrained and there are less sources of capital to highlight, we know that it's been a growing problem for women entrepreneurs. What we've seen here is that as larger banks and traditional sources of capital are more constrained, that folks have had more success at CDFIs, micro-lending funds. There's some really great community-based lending organizations that are nonprofits and aren't traditional micro-lending funds, but they do some sorts of venture and some sorts of lending. And they're popping up in communities across the country to meet this need. There are also some credit counseling organizations that kind of help, identify where you are, where the gaps in your credit portfolio might be given the deterioration of collateral or your home equity or traditional ways you would have accessed capital before the current situation, and they can look at that and direct you to some good sources of capital. Now again, I would say CDFIs people have been very successful with, these micro-lending institutions which now have some bigger programs. Look for the non-traditional, and the best way to find some of those programs and those organizations near you is through your Women's Business Center or Small Business Development Center or SBA district office. Now the banks and the community banks have SBA guaranteed products, and we know that SBA guaranteed products are actually 3 to 5 times more likely to reach women and minority business owners as conventional sources of capital. So it's actually really important. Look up on the website on SBA, find the resources near you. It should list some banks that are SBA lenders near you. That might be a place to start. Go talk to a counselor about the landscape of services and the organizations offering credit in your community. Frequently, even in this age of easily accessible information, you get overwhelming and distributed results and you're not sure which one you line up with. There are folks at women's business centers, at small business development centers that think a lot about this and can see based on your profile, your capital needs and your collateral, your credit history, where you are, not judging where you are, just seeing where you are and seeing actually that's a good fit for that person or that's a good fit for that organization. So having that kind of information broker can really be helpful.
That sounds great. And I think that speaks to a question we got in from Sarah Angevine, who's saying, I teach college young women that have great ideas to start businesses. Are there programs for these young women to connect to capital? Are there programs for recent women graduates? And I think some of what you were saying speaks to that.
Well, it's also really exciting. You want to talk about the Youth Entrepreneurship Initiative?
Yes.
We've seen a lot of this recently, and it's actually something this administration's extremely interested in. There's so much potential in young people.
We want young people to be successful. We want to catch them really early, really early. So I think high school we're getting a little late to catch them, but I think young people have the brightest ideas. I have a couple of, children. I have 2 children and a couple of children, and they have a view of the world that is very different, and it's actually what we need in terms of entrepreneurship. Innovation is really what is going to drive entrepreneurship in the years to come. So the SBA has become very, very aware of the importance of getting youth into the entrepreneurship spirit, not only spirit, but guided spirit, so they actually know how to do it. So we are actually going to have a few roundtables around the country, and we are going to engage with young people to actually send them to the resources that we have. And we have a wonderful couple of events already. And it's just full of energy. It's all web-based, and it's something that I can't quite catch up with. But there are some younger people at SBA that are very good at this. So again, we're just going to have the resources. And for example, we're going to also partner with the Department of Labor with the one-stop centers and other centers that actually deal with youth and partner them with our centers. So there is not entrepreneurship taught at those centers, then they can pull out the resources of SBA to help them. So there's plenty of help, or actually not help, just assistance just to get them going. Young people don't need that much of a push, you just need a little bit of guidance, and we're just really excited that this is happening now.
So 2 other things on that is, one, as part of, as Anna was mentioning, we're trying to make sure young people are seeing the opportunities in entrepreneurship and business ownership. We're trying to encourage that and engage with them and identify the types of barriers and financing needs that they face. Two things we've done. One, the recent changes we announced in student loan income-based repayment are actually huge for young entrepreneurs. So making sure that after the expensive costs of college and sometimes graduate education, payments are reasonable and tied to your income, and that you have space to be innovative and creative and to chart your own path without being crippled by student loan debt. At the same time, we're also looking at partnering with, there are some great private sector initiatives. I shouldn't say that we're partnering yet, but as we engage, some of the ideas are, if you look for a lot of youth entrepreneurship gets their financial start with business plan competitions from universities and colleges. Sometimes communities have these competitions. So it's a quick Google search on like business plan competition might give you more information than I have at my fingertips, but it's a good place to start.
That's terrific, and folks seem to be connecting together and making deals as we're sitting here talking
really?
a lot.
Can you see all that in there?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
That's what happens when women entrepreneurs get together, right?
So that's great to see, and talking a lot about these competitions. So if you haven't logged in through the Facebook page, be sure to do that. So let's see, another question came in from Dean Ledbetter just now, wanting to know more about why isn't the federal government doing more set-aside contracts for women-owned small businesses? So can you talk about those set-aside businesses and kind of women's contracting generally, where we are? I know it's a source of frustration for many.
It was for me when I was actually running my business, but actually I became a very successful federal, service provider after a while. But yes, I understand. When I came to the SBA 3 years ago, I really didn't even want to talk about this because it's been a sore spot for women for the longest time. But something incredible happened in 2010, which is actually the SBA. One of the first initiatives, actually, not only SBA, but the whole entire Obama administration, is to fix this and make sure that women get at least 5% of everything that the federal government buys from companies, from women-owned companies. 5%, again, I'm the advocate for women, so to me 5% sounds like a little, but I'll take it, because the federal government hasn't been able to actually reach that goal. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that it's a goal and it's not a mandate, so it's a goal that every agency should actually strive for. So very, very quickly in 2009, we didn't reach the 5% goal, but we were at 3.68% of that goal, which actually translates into $16.2 billion in the hands of women. Come 2010, we were at 4.4% of that goal, so we kind of inched up a little bit, and that translates into $17.4 billion in the hands of women. So what happened in 2010? Finally, the SBA actually implemented a set-aside contract program for women-owned businesses. That means that if there are two of you that can compete for a government contract, then you can actually go for it. It's more complex than what I'm trying to say right now, and I would actually refer you to sba.gov/WOSB, that stands for Women-Owned Small Business. You can get all the details about that. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that that company has to be owned by one or several women. 51% of that company should be in the hands of one or several women. That's the main kind of threshold to actually be considered women-owned. So definitely now 2 women could actually compete for a number of contracts with the federal government. It's a really, really good improvement over what we had some years back. Are we satisfied with this? Of course not. We are going to keep pushing forward to increase the number of industries that could actually be included in the set-aside program. But it was an incredible start because this program actually languished at the SBA for about 10 years. And it took 10 months for this administration to give it a good kick. And get these women the opportunity to compete for government contracts as a set-aside program.
Right, and that's one of the tools that's really important, and I just want to emphasize that across the government, one of the White House-led initiatives has been to really hold the agencies accountable for meeting the government-wide 23% goal for small businesses. So the government spends about $400 billion a year buying things, and we try to, in 2010, we had about 100 billion of that go to small businesses. We almost reached the 23% goal, 22.7. So we have sub goals for service-disabled veteran businesses, women-owned businesses, 8A and hub-zone businesses. And what we've done at the White House level is bring all the heads of procurement from different agencies together and really focus on plans and best practices for how to meet those goals. So we've increased performance standards, so procurement officers are held directly accountable for meeting those goals in their kind of HR performance plans. Some agencies have implemented that. We've worked, to help establish partnerships through the SBA and through kind of the databases we have about existing service-disabled veteran 8A owned businesses, and making sure that larger agencies that procure a lot of bundled services are able to reach down to smaller businesses. And we've been keeping up the drumbeat to hold them accountable and to make sure that we're all focused on meeting that goal. It's been a big priority here.
And it's really important that, my job is actually to communicate to women that this rule is out there, but there is also somebody else at the SBA making sure that every federal agency is trained on how to actually set aside contracts for women, because if that is not done, then we're not going to get anywhere. So there's a huge big push in getting federal agencies to see these are the benefits, this is how you do it. You have any questions, we train you again and again and again, so you can actually start setting aside these contracts. So I do get that question a lot when I travel. Is that we're training actually federal agencies.
And it makes a difference. I mean, we've actually the past 3 years increased the amount and the percentage going to small businesses after years of that amount and that percentage declining. So these actions, while we have work to do, we want to increase the share going to small businesses and women. In particular, we're on the right path and we're keeping people together.
Absolutely. So Rajna Heiser, I hope that answers your question, because you were asking about training for OSDBU. So I think that should hopefully take care of that. And I think we're probably ready to wrap. So Elizabeth Thompson asked a question that will help us conclude that. And I think, Anna, you've mentioned it, but do we have other web-based resources that we'd recommend to women interested in starting a business, and I would just add to growing your business and taking it to that next level?
I was just waiting for the opportunity to mention about the National Women Business Council. The National Women Business Council is actually an advisory body that actually advises the White House, Congress, and the SBA on how to actually improve the climate for women business owners. So right now, they're going to release a lot of data on access to capital, how women have been accessing capital. There's incredible statistics about how when a business starts with, well capitalized, how much it grows, and it's just very, very easy for me. I mean, I know this, but when I saw it on a piece of paper, it's like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. We need to make sure that women are aware of this. So I really would like you to go to nwbc.gov for National Women Business Council.gov. They're advocates. They're supposed to advise us, and actually they're not supposed to. They do advise us on things that would benefit women business owners. So that I would actually, a good visit to that site is great, really, really great. And you have any more?
Yeah, so recently the Jobs Council called for in our meetings with small businesses across the country. We heard a lot of people say that it's very hard to find all the different government programs that exist across multiple agencies and multiple sectors, and that we needed a place where we aggregated that information. So a few months ago, the president called for his chief technology officer, his chief information officer, to bring together the agencies and pull together, one site where you could access all the information you needed if you were a business, from a very small business to a large business, someplace you could go and search in a customized way to find what you're looking for, but to make sure all those resources were in one place. So that site, which we're getting close to launching and announcing, I think there's some shell and some information up now, is going to be businessusa.gov. You can log on now. I think there's some test information there, and that will be built up actually really shortly. The president called for that to be built out within 90 days, almost 90 days ago. So we're getting close to a big launch of that. But that should be helpful. It should have kind of, everything the SBA has and some more on how to start your business, where to go, and what programs are available to help you.
And also the partners that I work with, Women Impacting Public Policy, WIP is a great resource for women. Now with the National Association of Women Business Owners, if you just go to the web and then you look them up, remember today is just your beginning of your search, because you're going to find a lot of information, a lot of help. So we're just giving you a little taste of all the things that you could actually tap into in your, I know that you're running your business during the day and probably at night, maybe between 2 or 3 in the morning. You could do this, because I know we're all very, very busy. So do you have any more questions?
Terrific. Well, I think one more. Terrific. All right. So we'll also post everything at whitehouse.gov/CWG for Council on Women and Girls. And as new information comes up through Christine's work and through Anna's work, we'll try to clearinghouse it at whitehouse.gov/CWG. So I think that'll do it for now, and we'll share more information as it comes out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.